Hi everyone, I'm Raff. Welcome to another episode of Nyet to Clutter, Sim to Simplicity.
Hi, everyone, and I'm Anastasia. And today we want to talk about something that I think everyone struggles with, especially in this hustle culture, and that's rethinking productivity. A few weeks ago, not a few weeks ago now, but a few months ago probably, we did an
hmm
episode on slow living where we kind of touched on this, but I wanted to dive deeper into the productivity aspect of it all. So let's dive in.
Let's go.
For you, where did you get the idea of what productivity is?
For me, it was the adults that surrounded me. So my sister is 10 years older than me.
Mm.
So it was my mom, my dad, and my sister. And each of them, in their own way, kind of shaped my idea of productivity. My dad had a travel agency.
Mhm.
So it was our own business. So he was always working.
Mhm.
My mom was working from home, so she was a housewife, and my sister was studying to get into university. And those were my three role models that I would see, like, and they worked really hard.
Mhm.
Brazil was not in a good place economically when I was growing up. There was a lot of crisis. There was a lot of uncertainty. Like we didn't know
Mhm.
if the country was going to go bankrupt. And I remember them working very hard. And yeah.
I agree with you that I wanted to talk about how I equate or used to equate productivity to working hard,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's because I looked at my dad, who was one of the first businessmen in Russia after the breakup of the Soviet Union,
Mm-hmm.
because we had the Communist Party, everything was controlled. And then when the Soviet Union broke up, there was a lot happening in the 90s in Russia. There was a lot of opportunity for oligarchs to grab the money that they could after the breakup. There was a lot of opportunity for criminals and criminal activity. And then there were people like my dad, who was just like, didn't really know what to do. He studied geology and then like did photography and was kind of a creative guy. So he was just like, what do I do? So the opportunity for him was to build one of the first business schools in Russia to like teach how to be a manager, teach how to be a CEO, since we didn't really talk about that during communist era. So he worked really hard. But also my dad was always very kind of inspiring and was trying to really give my sister and myself this message that even though we are girls, it should never stop us from going after our goals, being the best we can be, like climbing the ranks, being at the highest of highs, right? Like he was always like that. He was always like, let's get you to the top. And I think most girls are daddy's girls. And
Mm-hmm.
when your dad tells you that, like you truly take that as face value. And then you're like, you kind of go into the world and you're like, and now I'm going to work my hardest because I have to be like at the top.
I am surrounded by powerful women. So my mom, my sister, my girlfriend, and I was drawn to you because of that, and that's why we started the podcast, right? My dad never said it to my sister, but I think his work ethic was an example for my sister. She was yeah, she is my role model. So
That's
yeah.
so sweet.
Yeah.
My sister is also extremely hardworking. She's a single mom with three kids, three teenagers, and the three kids are like doing elite sports and everything, and
Nice.
she's just like hustling. Okay, so why do so many people feel guilty when they're not being productive?
I think you said it in the beginning of the episode, the hustle culture.
Mhm.
So because of social media, we now see people doing these side jobs and all these things. And North America, especially South America, especially in Europe, I don't see that so much. It's okay for people to almost have a burnout, for people to have a main job and then have two, three jobs on the side and then work 80, 90, 100 hours a week.
But do you think that it's also, even when you have one job, do you think it can come from like a self-depreciation when you're like,
Oh yeah.
I feel thankful that I'm even employed, and so I'm going to give my
Oh.
heart and my soul to this organization? Like, I feel like I was in that position, and I'll explain why. So when I moved to Canada, I was very young, like I was 17, and
hmm
eventually my career kind of brought me into communications, but joke on this country. Like, I English is not my first language, right? And so a lot of my imposter syndrome came from that, because I'm like, Russian is my first language. I
Hmm.
learned English later in life, and I felt for the longest time that I can, be abused at work, or I have to work overtime all the time because I don't deserve to be employed. I'm
Yeah.
taking someone else's job, like an actual Canadian
Hmm.
whose first language is English. And therefore, I must sacrifice myself for every employer that I had.
My journey is similar. So I was talking about the society, right? But like we're talking about ourselves, my journey is similar to yours. English is also not my first language. I also have imposter syndrome. The difference between your journey and my journey, the only thing that I was like, oh, that's a little bit different, is that I didn't think I was taking a Canadian job, but I also did not think I was worth the job that I had. So I was so thankful to have a job in Canada that I was working extremely hard, long, long hours. And it was in the my second to last job, so not the one I have now, the one I had before, where my manager looked at me. It was before the pandemic. My manager looked at me and said, "We are not saving lives. You have to stop emailing me at 9 p.m. Like work ends at 4:30."
Hmm.
She didn't say you need to chill like we said in a previous episode on the slow living
Like, I
episode,
have no chill.
but it's like you do not need to continue working because I would just stay working. Like we would end the workday, she would go home, and I would just stay.
And let's touch on that in our other question there about productivity myths.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think minimalism helps you be more productive, or no?
100%. Talking about minimalism and also essentialism, having less clutter, having less things around you, and also the decision fatigue of the amount of clothes you have, and how what do I wear to get dressed in the morning, that kind of stuff. All of that helps for you to have a clearer mind. And minimalism also introduce because I have less things to manage and I have less decisions that I need to make, I also have a bit more time to reflect,
Hmm.
right? And that also helps because then you're not gonna burn out if you do things slowly and you have time to reflect.
Yeah, for me, it's so many things. Like, first example is we're sitting right now on my couch in my apartment. 30 seconds before this, I had to kick my husband and my baby out, who were like just all over the place, right? Like, I was trying to get them to my son's gymnastics. And I don't know, my place is fine.
Yeah, it
Do you
is.
see any toys on the ceiling? If you don't, this is a success. uh,
No toys on the ceiling. I
so
can I
like,
can attest.
what, it took me, like, you texted me and I said I'm coming down, and as I was going to the door, like, I just kind of cleaned up on my way, and I think I've done a great job, and my apartment looks tidy.
Hmm.
So that's amazing. So we're able to do this job of ours, really,
Yeah.
that we enjoy, in a tidy space. Another thing I would say is that minimalism for me eventually brought me to a place of, respecting myself and focusing on what's important, and things like that. So eventually, I think it brought me to a place where I got rid of my imposter syndrome, and I focused more at work, and I realized a few things. Again, we're going to talk about it a bit later. But um, with that, I also want to say that I work smart and not hard, and
Hmm.
I'm inbox zero person.
Hmm.
This is how my organizational skills have been perfected, through minimalism, because there is no room for clutter and bullshit in my
That's
life
true.
anymore. Like,
Yeah.
it's like I create folders. I'm like, okay, this is not an immediate. Yes, it's fine. It's gonna go sit in this other folder. I'm gonna look at it when I have time. Blah blah
Yeah.
blah. Blah. And so it all sorts itself out.
I'm also a big believer in folders. I work on a cloud environment and I work with other people on my team, and they need to find things that I produce. So, and also for my own organization, when I'm doing a video, I took a course with an Adobe instructor, and he was talking about the power of folders and how you keep repeating it. So, just I don't want to I don't want to bore our audience with getting technical, but when I'm doing the video, like the video for the podcast, I have a folder for projects, I have a folder for the footage, and I have a folder for the final renders.
Hmm.
So I know exactly where to go for different things. And that saves so much time. Being organized saves so much time, right? And then you work smart and you don't work hard.
Okay, so what are some common productivity myths you've had to unlearn?
The first one would be, yeah, you just have to keep working until working is done. Work is never done.
I know.
Work is never done. In communications, it's never done. So you have to kind of set a boundary for yourself, kind of organize your day in a way that, okay, when we get to the time that you're supposed to stop working, you have to stop working.
And I think now I'm seeing a lot of content about like rest and what it does for your productivity. And I think we need to talk
Finally.
about it here more too, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of our creative ideas come with reflection. A lot of our great ideas come with when you just sit with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because I'm actually gonna do a shout out to this word of mouth marketer. His name is Saul Colt. I
Mm-hmm.
think he's originally from Toronto, but he wrote a book recently that I really, really enjoyed. I actually really enjoy reading books from my community, like just people in my community who write and
Mm-hmm.
then do like a self-publishing kind of situation. I think he published someone else, but it doesn't matter. The point is that I'm like, don't give me like this freaking guru who has like billion helpers and $1 billion like talk to me about productivity and how they wake up at 5 a.m. and then like it's 2 hours with a personal trainer and then the kids are ready for school somehow magically by themselves with a protein packed breakfast. I'm like, who are you? But anyway, so in his book he talked about how creative ideas happen in
Mm-hmm.
our brains, right? And I agree with him wholeheartedly. It's not that we create new things, it's that we live our life and we observe a lot and we go through a lot of experiences, and then our magical brain puts everything together. And when it's time for you to create something,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, you just kind of sit and you think a little bit and you reflect, and then you're like, ah, so you think it's like this light bulb moment, but it's not. Your brain has been working all this time throughout your entire life. Your idea might have come from a show you've been watching as a kid. Maybe you went to a different country for a travel trip, right? And then you're like, oh, like that was so interesting, that was so memorable, and then your brain just kind of gives it back to you when you need it.
Or when you're resting, right? When you're ready for it, when you have the space for it. Yeah, it's interesting that you touched on this rest and reflection aspect that is now popping up on social media with the newer generations, and they're rediscovering the how important it is to rest and recover. And this is something that I've never done. I was just like a freight train. And then when I started therapy, it was one of the first things that I told my therapist. She was like, so how do you define yourself? And I said, I am a freight train with no brakes. And then she said, what happens if you break? And then I just started crying. My body needed rest so much that I started crying out of a sudden. And I was like, I never thought, but it's true. So now I put rest and recovery into my daily habits.
I think it's also, one of the productivity myths that we need to maybe kill a little is, like you touched on, like there's so much pressure from the society and from ads to live a certain lifestyle.
Hmm.
Um, but you, again, it comes back to everything we've already been saying on the past on this podcast, is that you have to be true to yourself. Like,
Yes.
what makes you happy? Like, I right now we're in this 1 bedroom condo, and there are opportunities for my husband and I to buy a house or to move somewhere bigger, but we so enjoy this because it gives
Hmm.
us so much more freedom. First of all, we host friends here all the
Yeah.
time, 2 to 3 times a week, may I say, for a second, and we're always out and about and we're traveling, and I think we're giving our son the best life we possibly can. And I think you need to think about like where you want to spend your money. Do you want to be surrounded in a space where you bought all these expensive things and you posted them on social media and you got like a gratification from your post, and then the next second you're depressed because now you're in debt, or like you couldn't join your friends for a trip because you bought
Hmm.
this thing that was kind of pushed upon you or told the society told you that you need to have.
I always wonder what happens after I watch one of those videos. I did a haul, and then you put the name of the brand, whatever, and then they just throw everything on the table. Look at what I got. Look at what I got. I wish someone would do a video like an hour later when the person realized the amount of money, unless the brand gave all of that for free, which then creates another whole set of problems, right? Because then now you're managing all of those things. That people forget that when you buy something, you are now the owner of that, and you have to manage that throughout its lifespan with you.
And you
Right?
have to remember, like, is this thing screaming at you or
Yeah.
is it gently whispering?
Yes, exactly. Another productivity myth that I would like to touch on, and this is um, it's something that I used to do a lot, again because of the imposter syndrome, is not because you know how to do something that you should do something. You should not raise your hand and say, "Oh no, I can help with the newsletter." There is a person doing the newsletter. That is their job, right?
But this is a great segue to another myth, and that's to set your boundaries. And
Yes.
when you set your boundaries, like, you're not immediately this negative person who like doesn't want to work for the organization or perceived as such, right? Like,
Yeah,
you're a person who just wants respect.
exactly.
Because ultimately, going back to my little story there, I realized that I'm doing them a favor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the organization is going to live with or without me. I
Mm-hmm.
can be critically ill, I can
Yeah.
go through things, right? It doesn't matter. Like, the
Mm-hmm.
organization will live on its own. And so in this moment that I am a part of this organization, I am doing it it's a favor
Mm-hmm.
by by taking them to the next level, by achieving their goals and more. And they're generously financially compensating for my work that is within boundaries that I've set.
Yeah, because unless they approved overtime for you, you are not supposed to be working after hours. This is something, right? This is sometimes I would be working on something because I wanted that to be done that day, but there was no deadline for that. But this is something I'm still working on myself. We're all working on ourselves all the
Yeah,
time, right?
I
We're
agree.
unfinished projects, and I'm still working on that aspect of because
Same, but at least we catch ourselves.
exactly. Now we're better equipped at catching ourselves, right?
Hmm.
Another productivity myth that I remember talking to my therapist about this. She was like, "Oh, so you respect people that are high performers?" And I was like, "Yes, I do." And then she said, "What is a high performer to you?" And then I said, "Someone that delivers everything fast and the product is well made." And that's when we identified a problem for me, is that I try to do things fast and not everyone is on the same speed. So then we talked about, and something that I never thought about, the value of sitting with something a little bit longer, like taking different passes at it, go stepping away, coming back. If you are in your time, if you have a deadline and you are way early on your deadline, sit with it a bit.
How many times have you asked a question too fast and felt like so stupid and embarrassed because
Mhm.
if you sat with yourself for 2 more seconds, the answer would just come to you?
Yeah.
Or like you would just take one more step in those
Yeah.
folders and then you'd be like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it that way. Like,
Yeah.
don't embarrass
Yeah.
yourself. Don't look silly. Just think about it a little bit more for 2 more seconds, or like go to the bathroom and back. Okay, how do you deal with the pressure to always be improving yourself?
I don't see it as pressure because this is who I am. I have a continuous learning personality, I would say. I'm always trying to learn new things. I'm always trying to improve. Like 1% every day, like Atomic Habits, James Clear. Always improve 1% every single day. I don't see that as pressure. Uh, Other people see it as pressure because maybe they are not built that way, but this is who I am. So obviously, I'm not going to strain myself like I did before. I now know my limits and I set boundaries to myself, but I don't see it as pressure at all.
Yeah, I really enjoy improving myself as well. And the thing is, I think minimalism allows, like, it gives that capacity to, once you've allocated some time to your work, some time to your family, some time to yourself and your hobbies, and then you're like, oh, there's this time where I can like look into some interesting stuff, like read some reports that are going to help me or whatever it may be, like do a course on the side. I don't see it as a negative at all as well. I just think that um yeah, you need to do it within your capacity.
Hmm. And minimalism is great because it gives you space. It gives you space to think. It gives you space to live, right? Because you can spend your money in experiences.
Mhm.
It gives you space to be.
What a great way to wrap up this episode.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode.
The question we would like to ask you is, what's one productivity belief or habit you're rethinking right now?
Don't forget to find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Until next time on Nyet to Clutter, Sim to Simplicity, where we cut through the chaos and help you simplify life, work, and everything in between.
Bye.